Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome to the first in LHC's Architect Design webinar series. My name is Shona Snow. If you haven't met me before, I am Head of Procurement for the London and South East region. I'm part of a fabulous team made up of client support managers, technical support and research support officers based out of our office in Uxbridge. LHC is a .gov and provider of public sector framework specialising in the construction arena. So this webinar is all about showcasing the talent on our Architect and Design Services framework, and we have some great presentations in store for you today. You might have heard that the ADS framework has been shortlisted for 2 awards, the Social Value Awards and the LGC Awards. Well, this is down to the innovative approach we took in procuring the framework specifically to tap into new and emerging talent. We wanted a range of diverse architects who represent the diversity of our London communities to support our clients in achieving new inclusive design for public buildings and spaces that are fit for purpose, given the current challenges we face. So without further ado, I'm going to now hand you over to our host for this morning, Sam Whiting, our Technical Officer and ADS Lead.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for attending. Just as a quick introduction to myself, I'm Sam Whiting. As Shona just said, I'm the Technical Support Officer for the London and South East region of LHC. Just a bit of a background to myself. My background is in architecture, both studying and also working in professional practice. That's before moving over to LHC and having the privilege of working on the ADS framework. A lot of the practices on this framework on the list, both big and small, I was heavily influenced by and also referenced in my own studies and also when working as well. So to see this list is really, really special, and I'm very excited. And I think, yes, to really kick things off then, I think it's James from Asif Khan Studio on our Lot 5 Conservation Heritage Lot. So take it away, James.
Hi, thank you. Hi, so good morning, everyone. My name is James Pulman, and I'm representing Asif Khan Studio today. So we're a medium-sized practice based in East London, and we're established by Asif Khan 15 years ago. I've been with the studio for 6 years now. And I'm going to talk to you today about the new Museum of London, which will be completed in 2024. We are the architects along with Stanton Williams and Julian Harrop Architects, and our studio is delivering over £80 million of work for this project. It will be located in Smithfield Market, of which the general market shown here with the green dome in the centre has been left unoccupied for over 30 years and is often described as the last ruin in London. The project was an international competition, and our concept was to make a collaboration with our design partners, our clients, with the community, and with London. I'm going to show you a glimpse of this project that we've been working on for 6 years now. And there are 3 unique aspects which I wanted to draw out for you today. One, the idea that a heritage asset can be future-facing. 2, that a design process for heritage can be inclusive and collaborative. And 3, that a heritage project can be innovative. Our approach from the outset has been to adapt and repurpose the market building to serve the community while maintaining the character of the existing building. Located in the City of London, it is surrounded by a rich array of cultural, technological, and financial institutions. The museum's position is that it will become the new centre of London, absorbing the ideas and propositions from its surroundings, and encouraging thought about the city's past, present, and future. Horace Jones designed the general market as an urban block with a 3-storey ring of shop fronts and offices wrapping around a bustling central square for market stall trading. By embracing this arrangement, it allows the museum to function as a cohesive urban block, both inward-facing and outward-looking. This is a drawing we produced to show how this ring around could form a series of houses, which will accommodate a mix of museum spaces and partner institutes, inviting thinkers, makers, researchers, and retailers to residencies of varied lengths to define the identity of the museum and inform how it speaks to the diverse demographic of London. This ring of houses is like a folded high street. Here are some collages which show how these partner institutes can change over time. The idea of housing partner institutes strongly resonated with the museum's vision, and the development of this hybrid commercial cultural strategy was the product of a close collaboration with the client and client stakeholders. The shop fronts express the institutes within, where diversity is to be encouraged, So research labs, startups, shops, micro cinemas change over time to reflect the ebb and flow of a major global city. And this is what I mean by future facing. The Central Square is an incredible space that operated as a market for over 100 years. With its amazing dome structure and light interior, this will be a place for London to meet, debate, and learn. As a studio, we are also designing the main exhibition for this space, which is called Our Time. So our job is to take care of every aspect of visitor experience. The interior space here is as large as Oxford Circus, and we've taken an inclusive approach to designing the future exhibition here, collaborating with 5 creative partners through a series of workshops, providing them with the opportunity to be both consultants, participating in the design process, but also content creators for the exhibition itself. These creative partners are Ducky, an LGBTQ group who runs Saturday Night at Royal Vauxhall Tavern, the Islington Play Association, who are a children's adventure play group, Galdem, formed of people of colour from marginalised genders, Diverse City, a performing arts disability group, and Nutcut, a British South Asian performance group. And we meet at fortnightly workshops, which include roundtable discussion and design exercises. And in the alternate weeks, we run workshops with the museum and client side in our office, relaying our designs and the ideas of our creative partners with the curatorial team. And this is a new approach which hasn't really happened in heritage before and shows the design process for heritage can be inclusive and collaborative. This collaborative process helped us develop the brief for the Central Square, which essentially future-proofs it, to accommodate all manner of exhibits, talks, performances, and revenue-generating events, and means the space can also show artifacts of substantial scale. To the fringes of the Central Square lies the historic spine wall, which separates the Central Square from the ring of houses. We realized that this wall itself contains the story of the past, and our approach to conserving it is to let each layer of history speak. We are treating it with utmost care by adopting a selective approach of retention and surgical intervention, tonally unifying it through an applied clay plaster that retains the relief and detail of the numerous layers. The market cannot truly be transformed into a museum through preservation and restoration alone. Bold moves also need to be made, which gives the building new life. New large openings will be created in the spine wall, which connect programs and allow views between the Central Square and the outer ring, such as into the restaurant as shown here. The permission for these changes required early engagement and close collaboration with all heritage stakeholders. The market building has 47 shop fronts. Each one has required a different architectural approach depending on the presence or absence of historic fabric. Along with the museum, we agreed not to invent any historical material, but where it was present, to repair it. It's possible to combine respect for the past with contemporary design. We have developed window details which plays with the optical qualities of glass to try to take a new approach to the museum shop fronts. Stacking very large glass strips, the type of glass used unifies the 47 shop fronts, and it's one of the most innovative uses of glass in a heritage building. At key locations on the facade, we've created a system for large-scale architectural lettering to be hung to announce exhibition and events, and as a canvas for artists to share stories about the city. Museums need to be in constant evolution, offering an environment that can accommodate the ever-changing nature of contemporary public life. It is this need that underpins our design approach for the new Museum of London. I've spoken to you about future-facing design, inclusive processes, and innovation, all of which our studio would love to bring to your projects. Thank you.
Thanks for that, James. That was fantastic. I love the collaboration that you did as well with the workshops. I think that that's something in our frameworks that we're really trying to push as well, that our architects all collaborate with each other. And you can see that, you know, the product ending up is so much better, and the design is so much more tasteful, and it's just, yeah, that was really good. Thanks for that. Next will be Adam from Tim Ronalds Architects on Lot 5, Conservation Heritage also.
Hello, it's Tim Ronalds, not Adam, who's doing the presentation.
Apologies.
I'd like to show you the project that we did Armangaro Baths for Islington Council. It's one of a number of projects that we've done, complex renovation, repurposing projects we've done for councils and organisations in recent years. Armangaro Baths was actually conceived as a First World War memorial, but not built until 1931, and it was designed by the then president of the RIBA. And at that time, Finsbury Council, as it was, or the residents, few of them had bathrooms in their houses. And this new building was to contain 80 bathrooms for men and women and a large public laundry, all dressed up in a building which looked like an Italianate palazzo. And then, just before the Second World War, they built a new swimming pool and a Turkish baths behind it, see on the right. But by 2010, the slipper baths had closed. The building was in a very rundown state. And Islington Council, but it was listed, and Islington Council wanted to turn it into a modern leisure centre to try and improve the health of the local community. We won the project, I think, not because of our expertise with swimming bath buildings, we hadn't done one before, but because we had a reputation of being able to work well with communities to consult. And as is often the case with projects like this, the local community were very suspicious of the council's plans, very determined to preserve what was an important local resource. There's nothing more public, no more public a building than a public swimming pool. Everybody in their lives has been to it at some point or another. Not only was the challenge of trying to keep the local community involved and on side, but there were other challenges. One was that English Heritage and the council's conservation officer were initially completely opposed to any alterations to the building. We had a long and not easy, not battle, but discussions with them in order to resolve the scheme. This is sitting on top of it, is this magnificent, and it's still there, water tank, which fed those 80 bathrooms simultaneously. But the place inside was a complete warren, utterly uninviting and inaccessible. You couldn't see what was going on. And one of the key design challenges was to try and turn it into something that was inviting. And the key move for us was to make a new entrance. The entrance at present is at the bottom of the plan, to make a new entrance on the south side facing the park square opposite, and make a new circulation space through it. So this is a sketch we showed at consultation stage of this move of trying to reorientate the building to face St. Luke's Gardens opposite, and make a new entrance, and then from this create a new circulation space. This was one of the cut drawings we showed the community when we were talking about it. We try and do extremely simple, intelligible drawings so people can really understand what is happening to the building.
We've lost your sound there. Sorry, Tim, I mean.
Sorry? Can you hear me? On the left, you can see. Hello?
Yeah, we lost your sound for about a minute there.
Oh.
So if you want to just start that slide again, we just, yeah.
Right. You can see on the left the swimming pool, in the center, the top lit circulation space that was created using opening up light wells in the middle of the building, and then the older part of the building on the right being converted into fitness studios and gym spaces, and the Turkish baths in the basement. So if I take you on a brief tour around the building, this is the new entrance. This was the only place that English Heritage would agree to us making a new opening in the building. And that was just limited to one doorway. But we put a new stone panel on with the bold lettering of Armangaro Baths. And where there wasn't a window, a strip of photographs to show what was going on inside the building. And that entrance leads to this new circulation space driven through the center of the building to try and transform it into something which is intelligible, welcoming, fresh feeling, with bridges that connect, large staircase and bridges which connect across from one part of it to the other. The main pool we left almost entirely in its original state, but turned the pool itself into a modern deck level pool. So even that was a bit of a battle with English Heritage, but to actually make it raise the level of the water so it's a really enjoyable pool to swim in. And we built behind it a smaller pool with a moving floor in it, so you can change the water level from nothing to about 2 meters, mainly for children and for older people. And this has been enormously successful. And then the bathrooms were removed, or most of the bathrooms were removed, and that space turned into fitness studios and gyms, which have a different quality. They're daylit and different quality than many gym spaces. And the Turkish baths, there was much debate about the future of the Turkish baths, but they were extended. We dug out more of the basement and built more saunas, treatment rooms, steam rooms, and so forth to make it into a luxury spa. But it was important to retain the history of this building and the history of public baths altogether, so that in the center of the old building, the staircase, which used to rise up here, was retained intact. So families coming to bath here once a week would come up these stairs, they would collect their towels from the bath attendant who lived in this cabin here, and then go into baths. We not only kept the baths, but we restored 2 of the baths to be able to tell school children what life was like in the olden days before people had bathrooms in their houses. And as part of that educational installation, there's a sound piece which recreates the sound of the baths when you had 40 families on one floor bathing simultaneously and calling for more hot or cold water. But in material terms, we wanted to try and make the new alterations connect with the old. So we used the same sort of palette of materials, really long-lasting materials like terrazzo and teak for the joinery, so that the new has no less quality than the old and will last as long. And on the outside, the building was beautifully restored, with the only apparent alteration being the new entrance on the south side. But actually behind the scenes, this was a much more complex and invasive project than it might have appeared, not only in terms of the technicalities of planning a building of this kind and getting consents to do so, but in the structural alterations involved. I think English Heritage just retired in shock when they saw this state. And of course, it contains some of the most complicated plumbing you've ever seen, but it was highly sustainable. We also designed at the same time a combined heat and power station for Islington nearby, and the baths used the spare heat from that to heat the pool. But it was proved to be a very successful, enjoyable project. This is a photograph taken on the opening day when Ellie Simmons, the disabled swimmer, came to swim the first lap. It won for us and for Islington many awards when it was completed. But it was the most satisfying of projects to be able to work doing a public building in the public realm, which involves bringing a fine old building back into useful life, is very satisfying. And this is exactly the kind of project that we should be doing at this time of climate change. This is the answer to climate change rather than building new buildings. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Tim. That was fantastic. And yeah, absolutely correct there. And this is exactly the type of building we should be seeing. And as well as that, you know, showing that you had such the big community engagement as well, and showing us that really good section as well. That's the very simple but effective section, because when you're speaking to communities, that's exactly the type of drawing you want to be showing as well. So that was great. Thanks for that, Tim. Now next is going to be Anna from Tonkin Lui Architects. That's on lot 6 for public realm and landscape.
Incidentally, we're also on lot 7. I'm going to show you a variety of projects. I want to talk about innovation, community, and social values, because I think they work on many different levels in terms of the clients, the residents, and local skill set and local workforce. So it works in the beginning of the process, in expanding the brief. It works during the design process when you involve and share part of the excitement of the concept. And it also works towards the end of the process, where you're delivering projects and you can innovate and prototype, and you could share those excitement and discoveries with the community. So this is a project that has just finished. It's a 40-meter tall tower that uses very thin steel, and that's thanks to its geometry. We are using sort of 6 mil thick steel to span a 40-meter height. This is for a new energy center in the heart of Manchester. So very early on, we talked about its setting and how it fits into this sort of quite a mismatch of different types of architecture, but also on a very confined urban site. On the lower level, you see this very tall wall that's made out of terracotta tiles. But what was really fantastic was towards the end of the process to involve the makers in the area. On the right here, you see Charlton Engineering, a welder there. I think he's one of the only 2 welders who are qualified enough to do the welding, or who was trusted to do this. And on the left is a woman from Darwin Terracotta, who is also a very long-standing industry in the region, making the tile. So the process of making is inevitably a combination of a digital process and long-standing heritage skills, which is a fantastic way of involving young people and inspiring them. And in a way, this project is one of the process of this evolution of a invention that we developed in collaboration with Arab engineers since 2009. And we did an exhibition in 2014 at the RBA, winning the research grant. So a very long process of exploration and testing this technique that aims to use very little material to span large structures, ranging from bridges to pavilions, to sort of different kinds of, or now the tower. So here you see our beloved Arab engineer standing on one of the prototypes. So this is a type of process that we can share with the end user and the community in terms of the excitement of this kind of innovation. And in relation to that, then one of our collaborators in this process, it's called shell-lay structure, is Eleanor Michel, a mollusk morphologist from the Natural History Museum, with whom we've collaborated and taught on this technique. She had been for years a resident in the Crystal Palace area, and been telling me about these grade 1 listed dinosaurs on the dinosaur islands, and the significance of which, I must admit, was slightly lost on me initially. But what she explained was quite fascinating, was that this was one of the earliest examples of education, edgy entertainment is what she called it. So the Victorians created these sculptures to educate people about science. And only by prototyping and making a 1-to-1 scale model were people then really engage about the science of these lost dinosaurs. So I think it's a wonderful idea of exemplifying education, or almost kind of making knowledge empirical. And on the left here, it's the layout of the dinosaur islands that show that even the planting was done in such a way as to educate people about early planting, evolution of planting. So using different geology. So it was very much driven by her. She's a very determined lady. She did crowdfunding. She got some funding from the GOA. Oops, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. And eventually we got the money, and for the interest of cost, but also we're also always very interested in innovation. So we took a sheet of steel and we cut it into strips. One came up to become the balustrade, one formed the deck, and one went down to form the triangular beam. This was a very effective way of using as little material as possible. So therefore a very sustainable way of working, but also kept the cost down. The other innovation was the undulation of the bridge, which gave it additional strength. And that meant that we could use a thinner steel. And the other lovely thing about this project is that as it was crowdfunded and publicized heavily, one of the local fabricators came forward to express an interest to work on this. And they're called Cake Industries, and they've been really fantastic in helping to deliver this. So there it is. The third aspect of the innovation is that because the Friends of Crystal Palace dinosaurs want to be able to control the access to the island. So normally it's parked parallel to the bank. And when access is needed, you simply unlock the padlock and pull the bridge across. But just to pause a little bit, you see that a lot of our projects are very different. And part of the reason is we're really interested in placemaking and getting unique stories and identities out of each project. So we quite often involve the client and the community in this process we call asking, looking, playing, making, which is a storytelling design methodology. And here at the bottom, you see some examples of where and how this has worked, from very tiny sculptures to large master plans. But the process is about taking the brief and expanding it, thinking about what is the ideal, and also really coring down into the values of the community, not just materially what's needed for the project, but also what's really driving the project. So it's a process of expansion, and it's grounded by 3 pillars: nature, people, and place. And you'll see here the 3 boxes: it was, it is, it could be. So never really accepting what something is at the moment or how it was in the past, but thinking about what is the best possible ideal for the future, and also thinking about future challenges that the project will face. So it is very much a time perspective. And we, I suppose, in this process, create a lot of very different stories, but they're all grounded in this sense of nature. And our mantra is to connect people to nature. And in a way, doing that through very different scales, whether it's a day, a year, 20 years, 1,200 years, 20,000 years, because nature works on the level of symbols, as well as the bigger scale, which is 500 million years, learning from nature, the biomimetic projects that we do. So using nature as design mentors, as symbols and experience. So actually integrating planting, water, wind into the experience of architecture. Finally, the project I want to show you is the Dover Esplanade, which is space along the seafront. And in a way, it needed to work on several scales in terms of the overall, the holistic identity, something that is legible and visible from the castle, but also on the tactile and close-up scale, the human scale for the community. So it's very much a sort of beloved park. The innovation came in when we were looking to deliver this project on time and on budget, and working very closely with a fabricator called Thorpe Precast. So we found a way to CNC cut the mold, and creating one mold that could be cut into 2 and then flipped to create two modes, two geometries, and sort of applying this thinking in 3 different scales so as to create a variety of seating bays across the whole length of the esplanade. So it's about the sort of diversity of how people gather, different social groups gather. But also once it finished, we were very unsatisfied with the quality of the planting. So we organized an RIBA event wherein we invited someone from San Frai Ho to tell us about shingle planting, the particular biological feature aspects of shingle planting. And it was absolutely fascinating. And people from the community came forward to help with the planting and even the aftercare, watering it. So it now works much better and holistically as a park. So I want to just stop here, and this is one of our current projects at Grosvenor Square, designed to be a climate resilient landscape, harvesting rain, but also using rain to animate the space and to create experience for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. That was fantastic, very thought-provoking. And I love that mantra as well, connecting people to nature and the 3 pillars you mentioned, nature, people, place. You can really see that come through in the architecture. Also the collaboration, again, you mentioned with the morphologist from the Natural History Museum. I think that was really interesting. So that was fantastic, Anna. Thanks for that. Right, next we have Chris from Chris Dyson Architects on lot 5.
We are Chris Dyson Architects, an architecture practice both rooted in and a means of expressing an intellectual curiosity, a warm humanism, and a love of life. Today we show 20 slides of 10 projects. Albion Works, Hackney, an Albion of ideas, 5 apartments, 3 studios, a handsome mix of backland development of a former print works. We build robust and sustainable designs for a contemporary living born out of the place. A single family home not far away, another Albion of brickwork design and detailing, with contemporary glazing, warm timber and plaster interiors. Crystal Palace Park Cafe, one of the most popular recent additions to this park, laid out in 1825 by Joseph Paxton, the great Victorian engineer. Sited close to the lake and the central axis, it is clad in shingles that reflect the nearby Grade 1 listed dinosaurs. Harrow Arts Centre, a creative hub for painting under North Lights, yoga, community events, dance and theatre. Details matter. These are typical drawings produced using Revit modelling that look at the junctions of the walls and the roof. Our portfolio extends to RIBA award-winning pubs. This is the Seckford Arms in Clerkenwell, which won both RIBA Architecture and Sustainability Awards. The project uses reclaimed bricks and contemporary detailing, and a ground source heat pump provides the heating and cooling required in the new extension. The Cooperage, a house of many levels in a discrete location in the heart of Clerkenwell, provides a tower of spaces linked by a central staircase that leads to a roof garden of surprising intimacy. Wapping Pierhead is an essay in brickwork and a winner of the A.J. Small Projects Award, Brick and RIBA London Regional Awards. It is a former custom house, then convent, and now a family home, and is made from this Grade 2 listed end of terrace in Tower Hamlets. Rosendale Road, the old dairy in West Dulwich, is in planning and has a design for 33 apartments of mixed tenure formed around a courtyard with a rooftop garden. The project uses in this project, through innovative design, our amenity space provision exceeds the London guidelines. Portrack House, an extension to a Grade 2 listed house in Scotland, is set within an amazing landscape known as the Gardens of Cosmic Speculation. Here, our new building provides a guest annex for the existing Georgian and Victorian family home. Closer to home, a new project, 10 to Ground, recently granted permission for a new home and gallery in artist Tracy Emmons' former studio. And it is based here in our base camp, Spitalfields, where we have our office. It is an exciting future before us, and thank you for this opportunity to show our work. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. That was fantastic. Really big portfolio of work there. And I think the kind of seamless blend between old and new that you've shown there as well is really fantastic. Now we'll be moving on to Clare from Fereday Pollard on lot 6.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, let me share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Hi, yes, I'm Clare Donnelly. I'm a director at Fereday Pollard. We're a 25 strong practice in Southwark, just off Blackfriars Road. And we like to say we offer creative solutions to complex problems by combining the demands of architecture, landscape, and engineering. We strive to create places that are enjoyable, accessible, and sustainable. And we were founded at the end of the 90s as a practice that specialized in infrastructure architecture. But we're here today to talk to you a little bit about our journey into public realm. We've designed and delivered many stations. This one was at Abbey Wood, which is at the end of the southeastern spur for Crossrail, now the Elizabeth line, on the borders of Greenwich and Bexley. We're very proud of the building and its use of sustainable materials, but it was clear to us right from the very earliest diagrams we drew for this building that if you really wanted to solve the problems of the area, you needed to zoom out a scale. Those problems were really historic and caused by the very infrastructure we were there to develop. The railway line, which runs east-west from London out into Kent, and the new flyover that was connecting Thamesmead north-south had essentially chopped Abbey Wood town centre into 4 quarters. So the problem was outside the station, which was hostile to anyone wanting to use public transport or to walk and cycle around it. So in order to fix those stations, we needed to look much more broadly at the area, and that required an awful lot more partnership working. We worked with our fellow design team members and the local boroughs, as well as Network Rail, who were sponsoring the station, to come up with plans for how we could integrate this new station better into the public realm. Asking cyclists to go up over the flyover and creating a concourse at higher level that provided better connectivity with other multimodal forms of transport. The station now acts as a destination rather than a barrier in the area. In parallel, our work brought us to what might not be the most promising architectural propositions, that is Tideway, also known as London's super sewer. It's a job to stop sewage overflows running into the River Thames. Our job was to integrate the significant below ground works into new areas of public realms at 24 sites across London, many of them adjacent to the river, which is exactly where people generally want to be. What an amazing opportunity, embracing the river and providing high quality new spaces with planting to increase people's connection with the watercourse. Like here at Blackfriars, where we were able to introduce new areas of planting, artwork, and essentially allow people to have better access to the riverside than cars. It's a big, hard engineering project, which conversely made us quite passionate about embracing nature-based solutions for infrastructure. For if we don't stop throwing surface water into our sewers now, we'll need another multi-billion project like this in another century. Which takes us back to a much more human scale empowered by people. Our landscape architects have worked with a huge range of people to develop socially responsible design piece by piece, one step at a time. Here, Annie led a holistic community-led master plan for social housing in Islington. It took a very broad approach that tried to seek to address health inequalities as well as spatial issues. As a meanwhile project, pending the infill housing provision that was going to be made, she helped establish a plant nursery on a problematic kickabout space. This included employing a gardener and offering training to young people on the estate. A similar space and part of another large social housing problem is this project in Hackney. It reallocated a no man's land through a clear hierarchy of private, communal and public space. Here we provided a new space that was a dog toilet, which was now well overlooked by residents, restoring a sense of pride in their place and their home. Similarly, our educational landscapes, from a range of from nursery to higher education, provide outdoor spaces that are safe for recreation, socialization and relaxation, but also provide a learning resource that is linked to the curriculum. Our support for schools also extends beyond our projects. For example, here we had a big planting day with parents and children, to our volunteering hours in our practice, where we regularly take part in the city's Open City, in Open Cities Architecture in Schools programme. We have several STEM ambassadors, and we also offer work experience placements. Infrastructure and education also combine at the front of schools, making schools more accessible and less car dominated, encouraging children and their parents to get active. This is an aspect of our work, inviting people to move, that is really key to what we do. And sometimes support for it can come from the most unexpected places. For example, for the last 2 years, we've been engaged by Highways England to develop their strategy for horse riders, walkers and cyclists around their new major road development, which will provide a new tunnel under the Thames between Gravesend and Deptford. We developed a network of recreational and commuter routes, which, when built, will provide 60 kilometres of new and improved routes, giving people safer access to environmentally enhanced landscapes. In urban environments, access to green space is crucial to mental and physical well-being. Our work encourages people outdoors to play, meet, and connect with nature. Whenever we find opportunities to maximise this value, we will take it. For example, here we were seeking to provide a new green space for a social housing development, but we found by careful location of the layout and housing, it was possible to also open that space up to the public and provide a ceremonial entrance to the park that embraced its history and the site's heritage, while also providing an active playscape for children. Developing connections with new developments is also very important. This urban design study, won through a REBA competition, is where we look to advise Wellingborough Council on how to use SIL monies to improve connectivities from the town centre to a new satellite development on the edge of town. We led a concept stage master plan, which led to proposals for an enhanced radial route with a new bridge over the barrier of the current railway. This is always a challenge, and you don't get there without talking to people. We have to go out and engage people and get them to talk to you as well. So for this community engagement, we set up a pop-up on Southend High Street to discuss the design of a park in a nearby, an underused park in a nearby location. This was trying to get a broad range of views, but we're also very experienced at working with embedded communities. Here, we worked with a group of travellers using models and large-scale plans to design their new site when they were displaced by Crossrail. The communication and collaboration was essential to meeting their needs in the new design. But engagement can also be more joyful too. On Tideway, we have run the project's public art programme, where we've engaged with 40 artists over the course of the project. Our commissions were focused on community. Here, the artist John Walter in the Silver Mac engaged with local school children to develop a maximalist design for one of our construction sites, which includes the children's drawings of fantasy creatures that might live in our sewers. But also in our permanent proposals, we've commissioned artworks that celebrate the history and development of the areas to really enhance that sense of space. Our artist for Tower Hamlets, Hugh Locke, who's pictured here, has proposed beautiful sculptures for our site at King Edward Memorial Park that celebrate the area's maritime past, its links with colonialism, and diverse communities throughout East London. All of that is incorporated into a landscape which will bring Londoners closer to the Thames. A meandering path around the new structure brings them right down to the level of the river, where they might even get splashed. And the new riverside views that people will enjoy will hopefully raise their appreciation of the environmental concerns facing the river. Our public spaces are capable of working so much harder for us. At St Helens Square here in the city, the space is designed to the highest standard of security and robustness, but it also provides, improves biodiversity and provides a place to socialise and give people respite for the people who live and work here. And this is what we try to do with all of our work. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Claire. That was fantastic. Really showcased all of the, the community engagement, and especially the community-led master plan in Islington. I particularly liked as well the fact you offer training to young people on the estate. That's exactly the kind of thing which we really strive towards in this framework as well. Now, last but definitely not least, is Ramsey from NOOMA Studio on Lot 6.
Good morning. We're NOOMA Studio, an interdisciplinary practice of architects and creatives with a heartfelt connection to London. We create accessible, people-led design through investigation, engagement, and post-occupancy support. Our studio is formed of members from non-traditional backgrounds, taking London's rich cultural mosaic as our normal. I'm here today to present our practice and discuss with you how we use design thinking to deliver exceptional experiences for people. And also to talk about the breakthrough that the ADS 1.1 framework has been for our practice. The main bulk of the presentation is about our recently published street design handbook, The Lived Experience of Our Streets. The study was commissioned by the Cross River Partnership, which is a strategic organisation that works with 14 central London boroughs to provide joined up thinking around public space and transport. The Commission required us to study the impact of emerging global and local demands on street space in order to provide local authorities, planners, designers with a vision and actionable toolkit to make the right decisions about street space allocation. The Commission required us to study the impact of, the first hurdle we had to overcome was how do we say something new? There's so much public realm and street design guidance with London streets. As a studio, we're deeply interested in issues of human experience and the impact that environments have on health and well-being. And we realized that there were no street design policies or guidance that focus on the relationship between health, well-being, and user experience in the public realm for London streets. It was therefore essential that the study focus on this area. The study engaged over 25 stakeholders, which included local authorities, TfL, GLA, landowners, and innovative tech companies. We undertook in-depth boots on the ground analysis of user experiences of 4 different London street typologies and learned a great deal about the conflict between our streets being a social space, a space for transport, and a movement space of enterprise and business. The study looked at 4 London streets that represent different typologies for streets, and these streets were destination streets, where we looked at Camden High Street, transport hubs. The case study for that was Parade Street in Paddington, local high streets, where we looked at Atlantic Road in Brixton, and new development streets, which was High Road West, which is in the Battersea Power Station. At the heart of the study were the lived experience interviews, which we undertook with a number of typical Londoners, each with their own unique set of issues and concerns with the user experience of London streets. A form of oral tradition, we wanted to elevate lived experience as a valid data set when thinking about equitable public design. Our research allowed us to develop an actionable toolkit for equitable user experience-led street design. These are supported by a methodology which makes the policies, which makes the strategies contained within the toolkit usable by any designer, local authority, or policymaker. We put the methodology and toolkit to the test by applying these strategies contained within them to develop 4 visions of street typologies mentioned earlier that use the toolkit. For local high streets, the vision was for local high streets that are community-led, highly adaptable spaces that can accommodate the demands of high street users, as well as those who service these essential assets. Local high streets serve an important function to community cohesion. They should be spaces that accommodate local residents and visitors. For destination streets, the vision was streets that are both physically and psychologically safe, whilst ensuring equitable and inclusive access. For transport hubs, these were streets that can accommodate high volume of daily users whilst ensuring the well-being of the people who use and service them. Users include commuters, tourists, key workers, service staff, and local residents. And for new development streets, the streets that place people at the heart of providing engaging, joyful, and lively places for communities to thrive. These streets should become more inclusive by supporting intergenerational activities that benefit people of all ages. Indeed, we're putting the toolkit to good practice in our own work, such as our recently commissioned project for the Phoenix Road Garden Rooms with Camden Council, which will be part of the LFA this summer. And most recently, we've been appointed to a public realm project through the ADS 1.1 framework for leather markets in London Bridge. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for that, Ramsey. That was very good, and it just really thorough research as well that you've been conducting there with the lived-in experience interviews, especially. You create those character studies, those different typologies of the streets. I think, yeah, it's really good research there. And really, that's it. That's short but sweet. That's all the. I just want to thank James, Tim, Anna, Chris, Claire, and Ramsey for presenting. So that was really good. Also, I forgot to mention my video isn't on. I have had technical difficulties today, so apologies for that. The next event we will be having, where we'll be showcasing some more talent on the ADS framework, is on the 19th of May. So please look out for that. And any questions you might have on the ADS framework, please get in touch with any member of the team. We're also online on our website, and we have our ADS framework guide as well that you can find online. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for the speakers as well, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.